How you doing? This is Edgar, OtraVez, and we're bringing you another episode of the Flow Road Podcast. Today I have my co-host, not my cousin Dan, helping out. And on today's show, we have the smart and talented John Lawrence, who is the owner and founder of Hurricane Jiu Jitsu out in Cleveland, Ohio. He has a wonderful school out there, and we brought him on to talk about jiu-jitsu and just, reminisce about some of the old times, because John was my first jiu-jitsu teacher, as you will hear on the podcast. And so we get to, talk about old times. As you know, you can always go to theflowroadpodcast.com and see all our content and more, along with our store. If you want to support the show, go ahead and buy yourself a mug with our logo on it, or some of the other things I have on there with some art. It's always good to talk to an old friend from jiu-jitsu, because they are basically family. They're like a cousin who knows all your dirty secrets. You may not see them as often, but they have stories about you. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. I had fun doing it, so here's the show.
Didn't play well, but
nice. Yeah. So here, let's get started. All right. So this is Edgar OtraVez, bringing you another episode of the Flow Road Podcast. And today, my co-host is not my cousin Dan.
Seen a lot of me lately.
Yeah. And today, our special guest is John Lawrence, black belt under Vianna brothers, the same lineage that I started out at, a Carlson Gracie lineage, and who owns Hurricane Jiu Jitsu out in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
So how's it going, John?
It's awesome to do this with you guys. It's pretty sweet.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. So
getting started right off the bat, I do have to point out that there is another very famous black belt named Johnny Lawrence.
Oh yeah.
That is true.
So I do all the phone answering for Hurricane, among other things. And I feel like every time somebody calls to register, it's like they call to register their kids for a kids class. And it's always like, they go, "What's your name?" Because they want that point of contact. They go, my name's John Lawrence. I own the school." And they go, "Wait a minute. John Lawrence?" And I go, "That's right." They go, "Okay, this is really weird, but do you know that there's this guy I know, Cobra Kai?" They're like, "Yes, your name's really John Lawrence." I'm like, it really is. It's like that scene in Office Space when they tell the guys that's his name's Michael Bolton. Yeah. We're like, wait a minute.
So at Hurricane, on the wall, do you have the words "hit first, hit hard, no mercy" stenciled?
It's funny. It is so tempting to hijack all of that branding, but it's been done. There's a school in Los Angeles, a guy named Mark Lehman. He owns Cobra Kai Jiu Jitsu. What a genius!
Yeah.
What a genius. Dan, you train? You do any jiu jitsu?
Not in years, and never for a very long time. I trained. I used to work out with Edgar.
Yeah,
I used to work, but not jujitsu. Edgar was teaching me real basic Muay Thai.
Yeah,
cool. And we would train together until I think you underestimated me a little bit, and I think I gave you a concussion.
No, it wasn't.
And I wasn't kicking him. I was kicking the pads, and there was only one thing that I could do well. No, there were two things I could do well. But I had this right kick. I had this right kick, and Edgar was holding the pads for me, and he kept telling me, he's like, "Harder, do it harder." And so I really laid it on him. And then later that day, he was like, "I felt my brain shaking every time you kick the pads."
Looks like a big dude. Kind of. It's hard to tell. Yeah, he probably throw some shins at you.
Well, this guy, it was funny because he was kicking me hard, and I was like, I was like, because he was like, I knew he could kick harder, right?
Well, I was holding back because it was like, it's like sparring, you know?
Well, it's not, but yeah, I don't know. I know what you're saying. You're trying
but
to
I mean,
hurt me,
the same, like,
yeah. But I did have a headache after that. And later on, I was just like, why does my fucking head hurt? Holy shit, from holding the pads with this guy?
That's the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no worse injury than like head trauma. I mean, I broke my rib like 3 weeks ago.
Oh.
But like I'll take that over a concussion any day of the week.
But yeah, but like the fucking breaking of the rib is like, you can't do shit for 2 months. You can't laugh. You can't cough. You can't sleep on your back, your side. You can't do anything.
So that was definitely true for the first, probably the first 3 days. It was pretty brutal. I actually had to take the pain medication that they gave me at the hospital. But I work out with this guy. He's one of the most amazing trainers that I've ever been to. I've been to quite a few over all the years I've been doing jiu-jitsu, and we're almost back to doing like normal strength and conditioning. Mm-hmm. And I think we're 3 weeks out tomorrow. And this guy, he can work around it. And because I used to think the same thing, like you bust your rib and like you just lay on the couch for 2 months and you just let it heal.
Yeah.
I'm doing really hard strength and conditioning sessions with this guy. I just did one today. I'm doing another one tomorrow. So it's like, I mean, and maybe it just wasn't that bad a break. But it was the most painful injury I've ever had in all my years of doing jiu-jitsu.
And it's funny because when you get jiu-jitsu injuries, they're always pretty bad. Like, because they're always kind of like, it's the ripping of tendons and stuff.
I would think a jiu-jitsu injury is you're usually going to get it. You're going to get an injury when you let somebody push farther than like you're assuming. Not in competition, but let's say you're sparring or you're training, you're going to get an injury because you let something go a little farther because you thought you were going to be able to withstand it. And then nope, you can't. And it's, an injury where your body literally just gives way. Right?
Yeah. That's when you go to sleep or you break an arm.
Yeah. You go to the white room.
Oh, fuck.
By the way, I've never gone to sleep.
You never gone to sleep?
Never. No.
Fuck, I've been to sleep twice.
Yeah, it's supposed to be weird.
Like I told him, like I went to sleep and like one time I went to sleep. I went left when I should have gone right. Whatever. I basically Peruvian necktied myself.
Oh God.
I don't even know how I did that, but whatever. It's one of those situations. It's like, oh, he's a white belt. Okay, I'm just gonna, and then I went to sleep. Anyway, so then, I all of a sudden disappear, and I'm in this room where there's people there, and I remember having a good time, and it was like, but the whole room was white, and then on the bottom of the room by my feet there was these white clouds with pink underneath, like pink shadow, and I was there, and I was like having a good time, and I swear to you, I felt like I was there at least 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I wake up, and then Mac the Knife is holding my feet and all these jokers are around me. And I'm like, what the fuck did you guys do to me? I thought they pranked me. I thought I was like in the woods or something, like on the bed in the middle of the lake kind of deal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And it took me a while to figure out, holy shit. Today I woke up, I went to work, came home, picked up the kids, went to jiu-jitsu, blah, 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 blah. Like I forgot my whole day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like, fuck that.
I think most people experience dreams and then also some sort of like time dilation where like, like you were there for like a month, and it was really like 4 seconds.
Yeah,
it was like exactly like that.
Time dilation or just lost time. I've never gone out from anything like, physical, but I have gone out from getting electrocuted twice.
Whoa.
What? All right, we're
so
gonna start going.
I used to run an ice rink video game arcade place. So like half of it was a big ice rink and half of it was a video game arcade. And on the ice rink side, you're always dealing with water, and there's a lot of electric in there, and there's a lot of opportunity to do something stupid, right?
Sounds like jiu-jitsu. A lot of opportunity to do something stupid.
And, I just got zapped. It was as simple as I was plugging something in, and I shouldn't have been because I was standing in water. Yeah. I'm an idiot, Not like I wasn't like up to water, like to my waist or anything. I was just standing in water.
Yeah, sure.
And I plugged something in, and it was just like and I didn't go anywhere, but I lost like, I guess from what I was told, I wasn't out for that long, but I lost like 45 minutes. And I just kind of came to, and I was just like sitting in an office chair in my office, like, what, And then there was another time where I was trying to fix a video game, and I stuck my hand in the cage, because video games have like a cage that surrounds that's on the inside. It kind of surrounds, and I reached in there, and I reached back behind one of the control panels to just kind of feel around if there was a loose connection.
And there was.
And I put my finger in a place I shouldn't have put my finger, and this is exactly the same thing. It was just like, yeah. And I lost some time.
I lost some time.
So, John, tell us more. So like, first off, I kind of want to talk about how we met, because you and I met at Vianna Brothers, and you were a purple belt at the time.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I started taking morning classes, and you were the guy in the morning, and it was like me, you, and maybe 3-4 other guys usually.
What year was this? Do you recall?
Fuck, man. I want to say like,
probably ballpark it.
I don't know, about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So right. Like it was like you, me, Al, Hawaiian Sam. I can't remember who else.
I remember. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So like we all started around the same time, and you were teaching mornings, but I remember thinking like, I got this, and you would hand me my ass on a regular fucking basis, man. And I outweigh you by at least 100 pounds, even then. And it was just like, it was crazy. And you were always like, so like, first of all, like you teaching, even at purple belt, you were always so technical, so careful about passing on what you were learning as accurately as possible. But you also seemed to kind of like try to absorb new stuff. You always seemed like a super intelligent guy, and really kind of personable, which is one of the reasons I always I wanted to reach out to you and get you on the show. But like you're just super smart guy. And even then, like you're a funny guy too. Like, so it was like cool to be around you, just to take class with you. So like, I just wanted to wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. That's so nice. Yeah, I remember that group that you just named all those guys, and yeah, it's almost like they probably didn't, but it was like they almost all started during the same week, and then they all, I don't know exactly who is what rank now, but it's pretty amazing that group really stuck with it. It's very rare,
Yeah, it was like all three of us at the least us. We stuck it out. I think Al is a brown belt. I think Sam is too.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. If not, I think Al might even be a black belt now. I'm not sure.
I wouldn't even want to say it, but I thought maybe that was the case. I have a hard time keeping up.
Yeah.
It's especially because there haven't been like any training photos or coming out of Chicago, really. I mean, I usually will cruise like the Vianna Brothers Instagram. Obviously it's been a little inactive for a while. But it looks like it's starting to pick up. kind of went on a tangent there. Oh, the first day. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a very memorable first day for you. I don't want to put you on blast and tell that story.
Go ahead, man. I know you want to.
You could probably sense that I'm like, I was trying to be polite.
Oh, dude, have you probably haven't listened to the podcast because we're not polite.
I don't.
Most certainly not me. Yeah, I take it to Edgar on the daily.
Yeah,
okay, I'll give you a little ammunition. I get you get like over the years you teach a lot, and like you'll start to recognize people. Like a guy comes in and it's kind of like, oh, like I've trained with a guy like this before. And what it was with him is like the guy who used to wrestle, competitive guy, I mean, he had a very competitive spirit, wasn't a quitter. And then despite how big he was, he actually moved real fast, was a really athletic guy. And
that guy was not
what?
Edgar.
You see what I'm saying? Sure. So go ahead.
But it was funny because I don't remember exactly what happened, but we were sparring, and he was bringing it, and I ended up catching his arm at some point. And if you don't know jiu-jitsu that well, I mean, the basic idea is that usually when you have somebody in an arm locker or an arm bar, you've got one or both of your legs over their torso. In this case, like one's sort of like near his face. And to this day, we can still dispute what may or may not have happened, but I felt his teeth sink into my calf muscle. And I stopped and I go, "Did you just bite me?" I actually don't remember how you responded, but it was a great moment.
I was well, first of all, I was super embarrassed, but in my defense, and this is what happened. All right.
Go ahead.
So you and you can jump back in after this, but he's kicking my ass. All right. Like, he's being nice, but this is like 5 minutes of him tapping me like every 10 seconds, right? So he's kicking my ass, like literally kicking my ass, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, right? So it's like, how is this guy, 140 pounds, soaking wet, kicking the shit out of me right now, right? So I get a little amped up, right? But I wasn't. So then I try to fight as best as I can, but I keep getting my ass kicked. So then this guy eventually catches my arm. I know enough at this time to know that he got me, right? So, but I'm trying to muscle out, right? So he pulls on the arm, and I'm like, and I'm trying to pull back. And at the moment that I clench my teeth, he sticks his leg in my mouth. So I was like, and then I tried to yank my arm back, and he stuck his leg in my mouth, and then I braced myself. I didn't bite him.
You know what the story reminds me of? It's like when a dude goes to the hospital and he's got like a light bulb in his ass.
Yeah.
Right. They're like, "What happened?" He's like, "Dude, I was changing the light bulb and I flipped over."
I know what it looks like.
Right.
But I
one
didn't
in a million shot, Doc. 1 in a million shot.
Yeah.
And so Edgar, after that, you went home with a light bulb in your ass.
No, but you got to understand.
But you have a light bulb in your ass now?
No, never have I ever had a light bulb in my ass. But but you see, the other thing too is like, John thinks this is like, I know you still think that I purposely bit you, but I swear to you.
It was so long ago. It's like, it's not even, the memory is like barely even there.
Yeah.
I have no idea what happened. I tell you what I'm more disturbed by though is the way that, like, the way that you describe the way that I sparred with you is your first day. And I think about like, if your account is accurate, and I was tapping you like every 30 seconds, like that's something that like I would never do to a new student now.
No. Well, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but I was like, okay. I was exaggerating. I think you trapped me like 3 or 4 times, but even then, like, that's too much for me. even then, like, and I didn't know any better. Right. So like, So, but like, yeah, I know you would never do that, but it was just like, you were owning me on the mat, and it was super duper apparent to me. And there was nothing I could do to like, it's just so weird because it's like, oh, I'm going to drown now. And I don't know how to stop it, you know? And
that's really what sells it. That was the hardest part about opening the school, was when I first opened it. I definitely had help, but like I was teaching every class, every session. I was rolling every day at every class. And, you know, we got some big like corn-fed wrestlers here in Ohio.
Yeah.
These guys would come in and like, they'd go, yeah, I heard jiu-jitsu is awesome. I heard it's like, you know, it works really well and I want to learn it. And so like like what I consider sales, if I would even describe it that way, is to like demonstrate that it works. And like you said, I was even smaller then. Like I was a very small guy, you know, up until like recently, I was still competing at like featherweight. So it was really like, it was 150 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And it would sell it because, like, you know, I was some Adam Sandler looking motherfucker, and the guys would come in and, you know, they'd look at me and they go, this guy looks like a computer nerd. And like, you know, and then I would be able to demonstrate that it actually works well. And they'd be like, sign me up. Right.
Yeah.
But like, that is not a sustainable strategy, like to keep your body healthy, you know? So,
yeah. Well, I mean, even some of the other instructors I was with, like they would, like after you left, you know, they would teach in the morning or whatever, and then go teach at night. And they would tell me, it's just like, look, man, I want to spar.
Yeah.
I got to spar at night too. And there's more guys in the evening. I can't keep it up. And I'm like, okay, I understand, you know, like I understand, because it's a physical job. And if you're doing it in the morning and in the evening, it takes a toll, you know?
Yeah. And right now we have classes like 7 days a week. I mean, I got my phone on silent right here, but I'm just like sort of watching it for emergencies. And we have classes running right now. And it's like a morning thing, an afternoon thing, a night thing, a weekend thing. And, which is pretty dope, but like, there's no way I could do it without help now. You know? I've got great help too. So,
and from the looks of it, that gym you started out there, like, first of all, you started with a studio out there, right? With Hurricane, you started with a small storefront, and then you just blew that sucker up, man. That looks fantastic, bro.
Thanks. Yeah. It actually started even before the storefront. It started in my basement, like in my house. I was trained when I moved here. I trained at like a local gym, actually like they're my competitor now, obviously. But I trained there, and you know, I mean, for reasons I won't get into, that like definitely didn't work out. And then me and like two other guys from that school, we were just like rolling in my basement for a while. And it was, I mean, I needed like a legit gym. I don't think my wife liked strangers coming over to the house to train all the time. And she was pregnant with our second daughter, and it was time to make the jump. So yeah, that first school was like, it was tiny. It was really small. So like a little closet.
Yeah. But the school you have now looks amazing. You got two mats, two like levels to train on.
Yeah.
You got that dope mural on the wall. It just looks so fucking cool, man.
I mean, and it's obviously a lot went into it, but like, we're just feel super. I just feel super lucky. I mean, there's no, you know, I don't really know what the magic formula is there. We started training in the small space, and it was just really organic. I mean, we picked up some new students. They told some friends, picked up some more new students. And I think within a year, we knocked the wall down, took over the space next to us. And then a year or so after that, there were no more walls to knock down. And so then we moved to the big place that we're now. It used to be a bank.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just been, I just feel, like I said, I just feel super lucky. I couldn't really explain how it happened. It was just very organic, you know. But what I would say is, like, when we first started it in that little space, I thought that was it. Like once I got like 20 students, and I could like pay the rent and then make some, whatever that number was, I was like, oh, cool. I have my little jiu-jitsu club now. And then it grew completely out of my control.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
It's a good problem to have,
Yeah, it definitely is, to a point, but I also don't want to I don't want to be like a 3-floor mega gym, and I don't want to scale so big that it becomes impersonal.
Yeah.
I think that it's probably about as big as it could possibly be right now without it feeling impersonal.
Yeah.
So are you at a point where you can't take new students?
No. But if things go the way that they were going in 2019 before COVID hit, we would probably get to that place where we've fully scaled out our business.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, we could now that we've got the second mat space, I could kind of get creative with how we structure the schedule. But yeah, I mean, it's I've got some Instagram stories on my Instagram, hurricane.jj. On Instagram, and we have video from our 2019 summer promotions. We've got 80 people on that. I mean, it's pretty wild, and yeah. Anyway,
that's amazing. It's just like to see you start that little storefront, because I mean, that's all I know, right? That's all I could see. I mean, the only time I talk to you is, when we see each other at events or something. And the last time I saw you, it was at, Pedro's funeral. But
yeah,
it's just so I'm watching you on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm seeing you just grow, bro. And I mean, and to a certain extent, or I shouldn't say to a certain extent, but that is all you. That the reason that place is growing is because you are not only knowledgeable in the subject matter that you're teaching, but you're also a super cool guy, nice guy, honorable guy. You're likable. I mean, you're part of the product that's making this work. And the fact that you're taking it seriously and thinking about, okay, well, if I get any bigger, we're going to lose a little bit of that.
Yeah.
That personality. I don't know if I want to get bigger. That's so awesome, dude. That's part of what makes the gym work.
Well, first, let me politely accept the compliment, because my wife says I'm terrible at accepting compliments. People say something, I'll find a way to weasel out of it and diminish it. So thank you very much. That's very kind. But also I've had, I do think hard work is sort of the duh factor. Of course, if you don't work hard, your business is going to fail. You have to work hard. Mm-hmm. But also I think luck is a big factor. I think by sheer happenstance, I picked a really good location. I didn't know it was a good location. And now I know it's a good location, and I would never want to, but so there's a little luck involved there. I've had unbelievable help from the other black belts and brown belts and purple belts who were essentially the founding members, with me. I couldn't do it without them. I definitely have a couple tricks of the trade that are, I think have really contributed to the success. One of the things would be, we try to take a really non-traditional, casual approach to interacting with the students, while at the same time keeping it a very disciplined, structured place, if that makes sense. So we're very thoughtful about how the jiu-jitsu we teach and the curriculum that we set out, but also I'm just not really down with being called professor or bowing to me and bowing in and out, sort of the guru up on high. We've tried to stay really far away from all that stuff, and that seems to be very effective. People seem to be very refreshed by that. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think in some gyms, even in Brazil, they don't get too crazy with that. Even there's some places that are a little more relaxed.
Yeah, just depends where you go, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure that stuff adds to it, but I mean, if, again, part of this is part of your personality. Those people that follow you, they wouldn't follow you if they thought, they didn't like you, So, so I mean, there's a, so like, I'm glad you're taking the compliment, but seriously, like the success is because you deserve it, right? I mean, you're a good man, you're a good guy, and you work hard. So, and the pieces are falling into place for you. But as far as like, so like going back to some of the stuff that we went through, I remember one story, and like it was promotions, because you brought up promotions, and then something popped into my head. Yeah. And then I had been under you maybe, I don't know, 2 months. And it's like the first time I meet Pedro, right?
Oh, okay. All right.
So then this is at promotions. I'm totally intimidated by Pedro. Or I shouldn't say it's the first time. I've met Pedro before. But like,
who's Pedro?
Pedro is our sensei. His would you say he's the guy who gave you your black belt?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, absolutely.
So he's
Pedro's Obi-Wan.
I guess. Yeah, I guess you could say that.
Well, I got to put it in terms that I'm going to understand.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, but he,
that's part of him.
Because he's, yeah. So then this guy, he calls me up to the side, and then back then they were testing us. And
oh God, yeah, that's right.
And he asked me to do something. I don't know, armbar, and I was so nervous.
Yeah,
I forgot everything. And then poor John was sitting there, and I know he felt like I could see his face, because he's like, like I felt like I was embarrassing him, because I was failing him. I felt so bad, and then he's like, well, do you know anything? At one point, do you know anything? And I'm like, and so I'm like, well, here, do this. And then so I grab this guy and I do this thing where he's like, he's got, I'm on all fours, and then I just, he's got some kind of control on my back, and I just toss him off, and he's like, what is that? And he's like, that's not a move. I'm like, no, it's a move. And it's just like, where is that a move? And it's like, it's a wrestling move. It's just like, show me something that you learned here. Like, I don't remember anything.
That's rough, man. I remember that.
Yeah. And then he turned around and he looked at John, and he said, John, what have you been teaching him?
Yeah.
And I was like,
not my fault. Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt so bad, bro. I just sit there. I felt like I couldn't get any lower. Like if I could be a puddle, that wouldn't be low enough. It's
a terrible feeling. No. So to put it in context, I probably have a couple students who listen to this, and this is going to sound very foreign to them because of the way we do things. But yeah, so Peter used to, during belt promotions, it would be a whole room of people sparring, but then he would take the person who, he was testing into a corner with somebody else to, show moves on. And, I think he would tell you this like later. He certainly told me this, like, it was sort of his way of like kind of messing with the students. Like, like he knew, he knew whether or not he was going to promote you before he called you over there. Like it was not that it was totally for show.
Dude.
It was totally for, it wasn't like if you did really well, oh, maybe I'm going to give you your blue belt. Like it was all predetermined.
Come on.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Dude. Yeah, I still feel bad about that. I felt bad telling the story. I was so embarrassed because he put you on the spot, and then you're like, well, he's just like, well, what should I? Because he at one point was like, what should I give this guy? And he's like, I think he deserves at least a stripe. Like he works really hard, and I felt like I'm getting this stripe, and I don't deserve this stripe.
Oh man. Yeah, he did it different, man. I believe in being really stringent about like who gets promoted, and being really, really tough as far as that goes. Like we there are no soft belts at our school. Like you're not going to come and like, roll with a blue belt who's like really, really bad. And I think we've all like been in that situation where you'll like roll somebody from another school and you're like, I can't believe this guy's can't believe this guy's a purple belt. Like that's insane. I'd like to think that you don't really get that at my school very often, but because I'm so hard on everybody, because that bar is so high, like when we finally do have promotion day, I try to make it as pleasant and memorable an experience as possible. We hire like photographers and like people to take video and try to like, build some nice memories for people. Cause I don't have good pictures or video of like being, promoted.
Mm-hmm.
I might have like a blurry, like iPhone 1 picture here or there or something. So like, I still like in the spirit of, sort of like being tough in that regard. Like I try to carry that forward just by having a really high bar, but on promotion day, I'm not trying to make anybody sweat.
Oh, dude, that's well, that's awesome. But at the same time, like I remember getting my blue belt, and this is cool that you do that and that you think about that, because when I got my blue belt, I don't even think I have pictures or anything, but I remember being super duper proud of myself because I know that they're not just giving those things away,
No,
especially like in our
when you tested for your blue belt, did you remember things?
Well, by then they kind of stopped testing, because if they would have tested me, I probably would have fucking failed.
Yeah, it was kind of short lived. I think he kind of stopped doing it. We had some chats about procedure. Him and I, don't scare the shit out of the new students when they come in, that type of thing. It's better for business if you don't do that.
I remember him like talking about like some of these guys are, just too weak, and what's wrong? Why can't they just train and whatnot? And
sure.
He was very, I'm not doing the guy justice. He is, I really did like this guy. He is but he was very strict. I appreciated him for being strict, because I wanted the strictness. I needed the strictness. I needed some of that, but there was times it was just like, oh man, he's just so rough on me.
Yeah.
There's a balance. I mean, you also don't want to be like too nice and too chill. That's a hole that I think I fell into like a couple years in, too casual, It's like everything else in life. I mean, there's a balance to that. I don't believe in throwing people in the proverbial, oven and screaming at them and shaming them and like, just running a 4-hour practice till everybody's throwing up like that. I understand it's like an old school mentality that people think like that will make you tough. And I think we can talk about that, but I think there are some serious flaws in that logic. But like, I'm also not trying to like burn incense and play acoustic guitar for everybody. Like, it's, you got like, they're really, I thought the way was like super chill. I thought that was the way. And over the past several years, I've tried to sort of like, just like correct for that, so we're kind of back in the middle a little more, it's important.
Yeah. And Pedro wasn't like super hard on me, but there, like sometimes, all you needed was for him to look at you.
Sure.
And you knew you messed up. You knew you didn't do it right, or and that was enough for me.
Yeah, that attitude, like I'm not referencing him specifically. I mean, he was tough, but like that's just an attitude that you see from coaches in like all sports, basketball, MMA. There's like I don't remember who it was, and I actually don't really care to mention it, even if I did. But it was like a UFC, when they do those like lead ups, whatever they're called.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like the behind the scenes thing, and this. They're running fresh. They're running fresh guys on this one guy until he's like, in a pool of sweat, running for the garbage can to throw up. And that is, it looks great for the cameras and for Instagram. And it might be intimidating to whoever like you're going to be competing against, but that is a highly unscientific, unintelligent approach to training. There's reasons for that, but
there's plenty of science to back up everything you just said. I mean, there's that. Yeah. I mean, we know better now. Like we don't sit in the ring and let people punch you in the head till, to make yourself stronger. You don't run till you'll throw up. It just doesn't make sense anymore. But
that kind of training is counterproductive, because you're destroying yourself.
Yeah.
You go past a point where you're making yourself stronger and you start making yourself weaker.
Absolutely.
And, overdoing it with the discipline, overdoing it with the stridency, the strictness, that's going to wreck the mental state. It's not just going to wreck somebody's body. It's going to put them in a place where they're not reacting to the training the right way,
Well, think about what happens. Like, so let's just take that narrow example. Like what happens when you do one of those like bull in the ring deals where like you're running. I'm sure you've seen it, if not in the practice room, but like on TV or, on YouTube or something like the idea that you're going to run fresh guys on a guy, like over and over and over again. So like people are like Pavlovian dogs. What happens inevitably when you run those rounds on somebody again and again and again? They're going to fail at a certain point. Like it's a guaranteed pathway to failure. So like what they're going to experience is they're going to associate jiu-jitsu with pain and exhaustion and failure. They're going to make an association between those things, And so then when you go to a competition, it's easier to slip back into that failure, Practices should be hard, but they should be hard like right up to that point most of the time where you're succeeding with like great effort, but most of the time you're not failing because you want to build a habit of succeeding. And that habit of victory, as opposed to, like if you're a purple belt and you train with a room full of black belts, you got 10 black belts, like intuition says like, oh my God, I'm going to be so good, for this competition at the end of this. But like, you're not going to be able to practice any offense. You're not going to be able to get any good muscle memory into your system. And then you are going to be confronted with failure, habitually, like again and again and again. And so like that is actually like far worse training than if you were training like white belts, blue belts, and some new purple belts. Like that's actually better training.
Yeah.
Because it's like you throw a white belt with a black belt, and I'm speaking from not knowing a goddamn thing. I did some martial arts when I was a kid until I was a teenager, and that's it. But like you throw somebody with a black belt and they're not learning like contiguously, what they're going to be exposed to is stuff that's so far beyond their level of ability that all it's going to do is frustrate them that they can't do it. They can't mimic it. And
yeah, it's just, This is one of the reasons why I always kind of appreciated, even when I was learning under you, when you were a purple belt, you always thought about this kind of stuff. You always kind of like took it so seriously. And that's, I think, great, because you thought about the training. You thought about this kind of things. You always like, even, I remember even like I was always afraid, for example, to talk about the rubber guard, right?
Sure.
And I brought it up to you, and it's just like, yeah, you could say whatever you want about the guy, Eddie Bravo, but you're like, you can't diminish what he has put together, right? Did he invent any of it? Probably not. But what he's the system that he put together, there's something there. And so like, I remember you saying that to me, and I remember thinking like, wow, like John thinks about these things. Like you didn't just go to the gym, hung out, did the class and then went home. You're studying, you're still a student in all this. And that's the part about this that I really like. And why I think you're so successful.
Yeah. I think when you feel like you've hit an endpoint, like you've got so I don't have a written curriculum, and I'm never going to have, well, never say never, but I don't have a written curriculum. And that's because like me, my instructors, there's always some like new little detail, or there's always some modification on the technique, some new way to train it. That like by the time you write it down, if you're still a student of the game, there's going to be a change. Like we had our entire fundamentals curriculum filmed. I filmed the entire thing within the first couple of years, and it was very quickly out of date and useless. Like,
wow.
Like after just a couple of years, and I deleted the entire thing off of YouTube. I took it. It was like many pages of techniques, and I just burned it down. I took it all down because, like I said, there's always like a little refinement. There's always an improvement. There's always some revolutionary new technique or idea. And once you sit down like on your throne, your little instructor's chair, and you go like, that's it. Like I've figured it out. This is our system. Like you don't know it yet, but you're fucked. Like it's over,
Mm-hmm.
At least that's how I feel about it,
So how long, when did you start doing jiu-jitsu?
2006.
2006.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, how long did it take you to get your black belt?
It wasn't that long. I would say it wasn't that long, like comparative to, some of the other like journeys you hear about, these 15, 20 year, black belts. I think it was probably in the neighborhood. I could do the math. It was probably like 9 years, 8.5, 9 years, something like that. It's pretty fast. I mean, I just had a lot of hours. That was the main thing. For a very long time, I was on the mat for probably 5 or 6 hours a day.
Wow.
5 days a week. That's part. Hours on the mat is definitely part of it. You need those long years too. But yeah, so I'd say about 8.5, 9 years, somewhere in there.
So you started doing it in like 2006. When did you start teaching? When did you
pretty much right away? Pedro needed help very early on, and I've always enjoyed like teaching people stuff. Like I'm talking about like in a totally informal setting, just like showing my friends stuff. And I would say within the first 6 months of training with him, I put 6 months in at a school in Ohio before I moved to Chicago.
Okay.
And then I went to him, and probably within within my first year of jiu-jitsu, I was teaching. It was kids classes to start. I'll be honest with you, I like teaching adult classes a lot. Kids classes, I can kind of take it or leave it. Adults are much more engaging, but that's where I had to start. I think that's kind of where everybody starts.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy teaching the kids. I mean, I've taught kids classes, but it's it has its moments where it's just like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Just run in the circle this way. That's just not that way. This way, everybody this way. It's just.
Well, I would because my schedule's flexible. Like when my kids were young, like I was taking care of my kids during the day, and then teaching at Hurricane, like kind of when I could. And after hanging out with my kids all day long, the last thing I wanted to do was run a giant kids class.
Yeah. hang out with other people's kids.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to do. And our kids class, I mean, like I said, everything was my frame of reference, like pre-COVID, pre-COVID though. We would get 40 kids on the mat.
That's amazing.
It was awesome. But also, I mean, even with two, we would have, me and like 2 assistant instructors, and it was still a handful, man. It was a lot.
Yeah. Whenever I teach it, whenever I talk kids class, I always try to get some help, man. Cause it's, you need at least one more person to demonstrate. Right. But then, as many hands as you can get to like control the class. Jesus.
How long were they when you were?
We were teaching 45-minute classes.
Wow.
So when I first started teaching kids classes for Pedro, he had just like put the kids program together. He had like 1 or 2 kids, which is actually far worse than having like 10 or 15 kids. So you're doing like a private lesson essentially. And I go, okay, I'm like, what's the format? And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, the format, like, what do we, like, how do you want to do this? Like, you thinking like half hour, 45? And he goes, we do an hour and a half, run like the adult class exactly. And I was like, oh shit. Okay.
Wow.
And it was it felt
for those kids, it must have been an eternity.
No, for me, it was an eternity.
Oh man.
Felt like
holy cow.
Hours. It was like a 4-hour class.
Jesus Christ.
It was bad. An hour and a half with two. It was like an hour and a half. And one of the kids was like 7 and the other kid was like 4.
Oh, wow.
It was brutal. It was brutal.
Oh.
You do a couple things, look up at the clock, 2 minutes have gone by.
Oh
my God.
Yeah.
Oh, dude. Oh, man. You see, one of the things, at least for me, you probably didn't have this, but I mean, there's so much video knowledge out there. You can look up at YouTube. You can go to like all these different sources and figure out ways to kind of control kids, teach kids, and kind of like some techniques, some principles. I don't imagine you having any of that access. So you were just winging it.
Oh, way back then? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, totally. It was just, I mean, like I said, I've always kind of been a natural teacher, but like maybe not skill wise, but just I felt comfortable doing it. And so, it probably wasn't as bad as it could have been, but I like where I'm at now. I appreciate that I can delegate it to people like who help me. The other instructors seem to enjoy it more than I do. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate it. It's just it's nothing like that. I just really, if there's only so many hours in the day, and there's so many classes on the schedule, and it's like, okay, where am I going to funnel my time today? Like I've got this like family cup that I've got to fill. And, I've got like just my own personal stuff that I want to do. And then I got like classes and, it's at the end of the day, like I just prefer to teach adults now, it's just more fulfilling for me.
That makes sense. Cause that seems to be the thing that a lot of instructors kind of tell me eventually is just that it takes so much more energy to kind of deal with the kids, right?
Makes you tired, really tired.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically. Yeah.
Up here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you run out of patience, right? You use all your patience up with the kids because you can't be impatient with the kids. You gotta be, and you gotta be on, right? You gotta be laughing, enjoying, making sure you're enjoying it. And if you're not you can only have so much of that, right? And then when you go to the adults class, it's a little easier. You can do more adults classes, but you can only probably do a couple of kids classes because the type of energy it takes.
Well, I would run a kids class from like 5 to 6 p.m. and then here at Hurricane, and then we have an all levels adult class from like 6 to 8, and I love training that session. But like sometimes after like a full day with my kids, a full day of like office work for Hurricane, and then teaching that kids class, like 6 o'clock would roll around and I would just be like, I mean, I'll train, but I'm beat. Like I don't have a lot of like go left,
Jesus, man. So like, what do you do to like kind of refresh yourself? Like get yourself up in the day?
I just don't work like that. Like, so, and I'm not to single anybody out, but like I will sometimes get comments, and they're very innocent comments from like newer students who don't know me that well. I'll teach like morning class on Monday, and they'll say, man, like, like class is over. I'm like, yeah, that's it for now. And they're like, man, you got the rest of the day off. Like, that's fucking awesome. And I'm like, I understand, I get it. Cause you're just not really thinking outside of like your own, circle. But, this, at least the way I'm doing it, I can't speak for anybody else who runs a school, but like, it's a weird schedule. It's like several 14-hour days.
Yeah.
Like boom, 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 boom. But then like for my schedule, like I'm off, like I could potentially be off Thursday. I could potentially be off Friday. But my thing is I have to force myself to not work on those days. Like that's because I like it. I like updating the website. I like designing like new hoodies. I like shooting videos for Instagram. I like shooting techniques. I like, and I like doing my own jiu-jitsu stuff. I like to drill with my, some of the higher ups but I just have to go like, I'm just going to drink coffee on the porch today. Like, I'm just not going to fucking do anything, and that's very challenging. That's hard to do.
Yeah. Especially when you're working in your passion, right? I mean,
right. Yeah. That's, of course you're never going to really take a day off because it's not a job per se. It's like your lifestyle,
Sure. I mean, like, Dan, do you, are you into like writing, like, in terms of like freestyle or otherwise, like for your comedy? Like, do you?
Well, I don't perform anymore. Right. When I did perform, I did stand up.
Or because of COVID?
No, I stopped performing in 2017.
Oh, okay.
But the thing, there was never really a day off. And I mean, you'll hear comedians talk about like, oh, I really only have to work like, 4 hours a day, depending. But the thing is, it's just like your gym. If I wanted to be successful, I still had to follow a routine. I had to get up in the morning. I had to spend a few hours emailing bookers and lining up shows and writing new material. You had to sit down and spend a couple hours a day just trying to pound out new jokes and new routines. And then, when night time came around and it was, very rarely you don't have like Monday or Tuesday night shows typically.
Yep.
So, Monday or Tuesday night, it would be, make the rounds of the open mics, try out the new material. And fun fact, open mics are the worst place in the world to try new material.
I'm sure.
It's useless. But then, Wednesday through Sunday, more often Wednesday through Saturday those are the nights that you work, Well, that means Wednesday morning or Tuesday night, I'm getting in the car and I'm driving halfway across the country, and then, so Wednesday night I would work 1 or 2 hours, but I'm spending 10 hours in the car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like, I only do, at no point is stand up a matter of all I do is 1 or 2 hours a night, Wednesday through Saturday. Yeah. That's just not how it works. There's a lot more to it than that, especially if you want to survive,
Yeah, but that's all people. That's all people see you do. Like you have your stage time, and then
people perceive it. Yeah. People perceive it because it's outside of the box of normal. It's not an office job or a family job. You know what I mean?
I'm laughing because my heart is connecting with yours right now. I've got like all these like funny little anecdotes. And again, I don't ever think, I've never really met anybody who's trying to like intentionally like diminish what I do. But you have to understand, like, from guys like Edgar and like some of those students, like a profession like mine gets tremendous respect.
Mm-hmm.
That is the only group that gives it tremendous respect. Pretty much everywhere else you go, I've avoided telling people what I do because it's just easier to just say like I'm a teacher. Then that gets weird because like, what school do you teach at? And it's like, oh no, it's not like that. But I mean, people basically just think that like I'm like a karate instructor And you know, and like,
Right.
and I'm doing it like part-time somewhere. Like it's a lot. I get a lot of like references like, oh, like, so like, what else do you do? Or like, oh, is that your full-time job? And again, I get it because like it is pretty rare for somebody to like actually be a for real full-time martial arts instructor. But
that's the thing. You're not a full-time martial arts instructor. You are a business owner, right?
Yeah, sure.
So like, yes, the core of what you do is teaching jiu-jitsu, but you have a business to run, and there are things that you have to do in order to keep the business running. And you're not just standing in a gym for 14 hours a day. You know, you're doing the books, you're taking care of the marketing, you're whatever it is, you know.
That's all true. That's definitely,
you know, and people don't connect that, right? Because like that's another way that like, because at a certain point in comedy, when you are getting booked and you are making enough money, it's like, okay, you're managing a business, right?
Yep.
You're managing a business, and there's work that goes along with that, and it takes time, you know. Like there's no such thing as a day off when you're running your own business.
Yeah. And not to diminish like karate instructors or taekwondo instructors or any of those others. But I mean, you know, it takes a long time to get a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
So real quick, what I'm saying about the karate thing is like, and this is going to be funny, but like, so there was this fucking guy at Starbucks.
All right,
that's where they are. That's where they hang out.
So I would go into this. I would go into the but again, it's all like pre-COVID. I would go into the Starbucks, and I think I had like, you know, one of my hoodies on or something, and like there was this guy who's a nice guy, but he like, you know, he asked me like what I did, and then you know, I told him, I go, yeah, I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he doesn't give me like an adult response at all. Literally, I don't know if your podcast supports video, but he hears what I've said, that I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he just goes like this. He just goes, "What?"
He puts his hands up.
That's what he did. The karate chop hands and the whole deal, and he does it right in my face. Fine, okay, like I get it. So maybe like he's a little socially awkward. I know I can be a little socially awkward sometimes. So, you know, I kind of give the guy, you know, the benefit of the doubt. I go, he had a weird moment. He's probably like replaying in his head, cringing right now. Fine, whatever. No, I was totally incorrect, because the next day I go to Starbucks, he fucking does the same thing again.
And that's when you bit him in the leg.
He puts his hands up and he does the karate chop wall thing again. So I think people have like you say you're like a martial arts instructor, and people have like a predetermined idea of like what you do. You know, like you've got your like karate robe on, you're breaking boards, you're testing kids, taking their parents' money. You know, it's so much cooler than that. You know, or at least I. You know, So
yeah.
It's just, plus it's something that takes a long time. Like it deserves respect. I mean, of course I'm saying because I know what it, you know, because I respect it, right? And I expect other people to respect it. But I mean, it's not an easy task to get a black belt and to be an instructor. And in your case, as you're saying, like running a business, like I'm sure the guy was just trying to, you know, extend the hand of friendship to you in a funny way. Because I mean, if one thing we learned here on this podcast is that if we don't make fun of you, it's because we don't like you.
You're right. Yeah.
You know. Maybe he just wants to be a friend.
No, it's kind of one of the things that you learn about the world is that most people don't know anything about anything, but they think they know something at the very least.
That is genius, and I'm just going to put a cherry on that. People. I'm going to limit this to men. Okay, when for some reason, like when men come in, I would say like there's always like there's a sense like men have. I'm talking about myself too, pre-jiu-jitsu. So I'm shitting on myself right now too. Like men have like sort of almost like a sense of entitlement when it comes to like our ability to fight like they just all come in assuming.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I can mess some people up. And then you'd be like, what are you basing that statement on? And they're like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like, I just feel like I can. Like, oh, do you have a college wrestling background? Have you boxed? Have you done Muay Thai? No. Like, I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just really like, I'm really game, you know?
Yeah. I'm really athletic.
Yeah. There's some weird cultural thing here.
It's never women. Never women. Women come in, they're like, I want to learn. I'll be coachable. It's always dudes.
But
I mean, that was even true of me when I first met you. I mean, like I have the wrestling knowledge, and I also, like, before I walked in there, I had fought in the Golden Gloves. So like I have this. So even then, but the idea is inflated, right? Because I come in.
Yeah, it was me too, man. I'm, like I said, I'm telling this douchebag story about myself too.
Yeah.
I think when I first called for my first jiu-jitsu lesson ever, I did the thing that now makes me cringe so hard when people do it to me, which is like, I like gave the instructor
your record,
my bullshit qualifications about like myself. You know, I'm like, you know, I played some Italki, and I did a little. I wrestled in middle school for a couple of years, and my dad taught me how to box a little bit, so I just, just so you know, I know what I'm doing. I didn't say the last part, but you know what I mean? And it's, guys do that. I don't know why we do that. Like, again, including myself in that statement. Yeah. It's weird.
It's totally bizarre. And everybody, I've done it plenty of times in my life, but it's a weird thing. Like, why do you assume that you're competent at something you've never done? What makes you assume that? Yeah. But it's there. It's a seed inside all of our brains. Like, oh, I could do that. No, you can't.
No, you wouldn't do it in any other area of your life. Like,
I would never go into an emergency room and be like, oh, that dude needs an appendectomy. I can probably do that.
Yeah. Like, what are you like? Yeah. What are you cutting? You taking stuff out? Like, come on.
Yeah.
But so, I'll be at like, again, pre-COVID, I'll be at like, a family party or something, and there'll be like a friend of the family's there. What do you do? And I tell them, I'm like, and like, again, just the oddest stuff comes out of people's mouths after you tell them you do this for a living, like, oh, like, do you think you can kick my ass? Like, what do you think? And they're not saying it in a challenging way. It's almost like, sort of like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. This is kind of ha funny way, oh man, you could probably kick my ass. Right. And I just, it's a very awkward question to respond to, because what do you say? No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, yeah. I mean, what are you supposed to say? Is it like, how do you be polite? What do you say?
What do you say? Probably. This is what you say. This is what you say. You say, you know what? Maybe, why don't you come over and I'll show you what's going on at the gym. You can sign up. You sign the waiver. Like, turn it into a sale. Yes, turn it into a sale. She's like, I don't know.
I actually developed a response to deal with it, because it happens so often.
You got practice.
I'm saying, like it was a thing that happened so many times. Like, I wanted to have sort of like a canned thing I could go to, because it was always uncomfortable.
Yeah, sure.
And so what I ended up doing was, I would say, so they would say, oh my, like, what? So you think you can beat me up? And I would just go, I go, what do you do for a living? And they would go, oh, I do construction. Like, I frame, houses. And I go, okay. I go, I've never done that. I go, do you, like, if I came with you tomorrow, like, do you think I could, like, keep up on your job site? Like, do you think I could kind of do it how you do it? And of course, inevitably, they're like, well, no. And I go,
there you go.
It's just right. Yeah. So they're kind of the end of it.
It's interesting because you bring up construction workers, and everybody that I've known in my life that works in the trades, I mean, they're all strong. They're strong dudes, because they spend their whole day schlepping around bags of concrete or 2x4s or pipe or something. They've got muscle mass on them, and somehow, some way in their brain, that translates into I must be good at fighting, you know?
It does. Yeah.
And it's like there's so much more to fighting than muscle, you know? And like I used to get in fights, and like I said, I mean, I have some really basic like I was a Taekwondo blue belt when I was a teenager, and you know, I've messed around at a couple of MMA gyms just for like working out, you know. But I never, and like when it comes to just like a down and dirty brawl, I take care of myself. But like at no point have I ever had the thought like, oh, I could just walk into the fucking gym and beat a fucking top dog. Like it just doesn't occur to me, because it's like, yeah, I can hold my own in a fight. It has nothing to do with because I know what I'm doing. Has nothing to do at all with that. It just has to do with every time I've been in a fight, I've done okay. You know,
well, that's because you're a smart guy. You know, there's idiots like me who walk into fucking jiu-jitsu gyms like and have to, you know, put up with the instructor, and then the instructor kicks my ass.
Here's the secret. Like here's the secret to why I've always done well in just garbage, you know, stupid fights, bar fights and stuff. The whole secret. I am big and I can take a lot more hits than the other guy. That's it. That's it. That's all it's been every time.
You're like Homer Simpson.
That's it.
There's a lot of value there.
But it's like I would never, ever pitch myself as, oh yeah, I could kick that guy's ass. No, that's not how it works.
You'd really, truly like. I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm still shocked at how shocked some people are. when you do what it is that you're able to do with them, like within the confines of like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rules, you know, like, I'll have a guy come into intro class and he's like, you know, they'll be like, oh, like, hey, I want to spar with you. You're the instructor. Like, let's spar around. And if I'm warm and I'm feeling good, I'll indulge it, make sure I don't take any knees to the head or anything. And I, again, like when it's over, their shock that I just, you know, did what I just did. Like I'm looking at them and seeing the surprise in their face. And then I'm going, holy shit, I can't believe this guy is so surprised. Like they're surprised me with their surprise. I'm like, really? Like, I mean, I feel like the UFC's been around long enough. Joe Rogan's been harping about how awesome jiu-jitsu is for long enough where like the world should know.
Yeah.
And we're not there yet.
There's a lot of people that need to learn it for themselves. I mean, have you ever seen that guy? That guy is just like, look, dude, this is 2 + 2. This is how it works. You know, it's just like, no, dude, that's not how, dude, look. All right. And then finally he goes to the grocery store and he sees 2 apples and another 2 apples. Oh, that makes 4. These are the type of guys you're dealing with. That's what you're getting. You're getting the guys who have to learn it for themselves.
And to be clear, like I usually am not dealing with these people because they either don't come back or, you know, they end up getting kicked out. It's one of the two.
That's too bad.
That's okay.
Yeah. So then I think like my big takeaway from every time I've ever been in any kind of physical altercation, my big takeaway has always been, I don't know what I'm doing. That's always been my takeaway. I don't know what I'm doing. Usually followed by, thank God that other dude didn't know what he was doing too.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things I learned, especially with doing this podcast, is that I'm the first one to tell people that I don't know what I'm talking about if I don't know what I'm talking about. I think honesty
should do that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just honesty is, especially here, because like when I like, there's been a couple of times where I tried to like kind of like something happens to me. You know, like I'm talking to someone and I kind of want to meet them halfway for some reason. And I start not being myself. So like I try my hardest not to do that. And it's weird that I even do that to begin with. So one of the things that I do while I do this is I try to be as honest as possible as I can. But it's just weird that dudes do this thing where we're like, oh, you know, I'm such a good fighter. I'm just, it's just, you know, I'm a natural fighter. Like, why why does it happen?
Yeah.
It has to be like,
you watch too many fucking Bruce Willis movies, you know, and like, that's gotta be what it comes down to. I don't know. It's not just fighting though. I mean, like
it's a lot of things.
It seems pretty universal that just American men assume that they are going to win the fight, whatever fight they never get into, whatever. But it's also a thing where you just assume you're competent. You assume, you assume it's like not having confidence is weakness or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's about confidence, right? And they have to use confidence to make up the difference.
Mm.
So I have a question in terms of like the pandemic and stuff. Like I followed you and you had podcasts on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find them anymore. I think, did you take them down or?
I took them down because they're just like, I'm trying to keep the website now that I feel like we're sort of over the hill or over the hump with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a pleasant, it's not really like a pleasant recollection for me. And then also like they were more relevant like during some of the lockdowns because it was just providing my students with like content.
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in like new people finding those and like listening to us talk about COVID a year ago. Like it's just,
you see,
I prefer that the channel had like, techniques and tours of the school and like class footage and stuff. Like, I just feel like, COVID was a bummer. And I want as few reminders of it as possible, like moving into the future. So
that's an interesting take. I can appreciate that because, but the unfortunate thing is that I found those podcasts. I know I'm just sitting here. I'm like kissing this guy's ass this whole time. I swear I'm not going to do this whole podcast. It's just, I thought they were really intelligent. I thought you handled it very intelligently, very responsibly. And I think it would be good for you to kind of keep those on there so that people can see how serious you take your business, but also like how much thought you put into this. And it wasn't like you took this shit lightly. You sat there and you had other people kind of, give their opinions and stuff. And you thought about how you were going to handle running your business, teaching jiu-jitsu through the pandemic. And I thought, I was watching you the whole time and I was thinking, fuck, man, John, people should be taking, a page out of John's book and doing what he's doing wherever they're at, whether it's Ohio, Indiana, wherever, because I think you really did kind of thought about it because first of all, one of the things I think jiu-jitsu provides is not just self-defense and fitness and all this stuff. I've mentioned this before, but I think one of the most important things that jiu-jitsu provides is community, right? It's an opportunity for people, like-minded people to get together, but there would be people in the gym that you won't see in other places. Like if you're a marketing guy or web developer, you're only going to see other marketing people or web developers. There's a chance for you to run into a doctor, a carpenter, a baker, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
And sometimes you could use a baker. Sometimes you can use a plumber. Sometimes, and it's not just about networking. I'm just saying you have these people that who ordinarily wouldn't be together, and you put them in this room, and you give them an opportunity to socialize. And there is so much benefit for a person, psychologically. And the service that you provide isn't just, at least in my eyes, I'm sure you probably, perceive it different, or maybe I'm kind of glorifying it, but I think the biggest product that you're providing people is this opportunity to be part of a community. And I think that's really important because I think there's this kind of crisis that's happening in our world today of loneliness, right?
Sure.
And what you're giving people is the opportunity to make friends. And I really appreciate how you kept your community going during this time. You were vocal. You used YouTube. You used Instagram, but you also thought about, okay, look, I'm trying to keep you guys safe, and you made that apparent to them with your podcasts. And I think that's one of the reasons why you should put it back on. I mean, it's your business. I can't tell you what to do.
Yeah, no, I understand the sentiment, and I enjoy doing those podcasts. It's funny to be, like a year outside of it now, because I feel like I can see the whole thing obviously clearer than before. So I guess the first thing I would say about, operating under COVID and everything we did, oh man, what is the first thing I would say? I think the most important thing is that I welcomed all opinions. I welcomed opinions that were, people who were more cautious. I welcomed the opinions of people who were much more flippant about their behavior. As long as your opinion is based on some type of evidence or fact or something you can show me, like I'm happy to listen to you and I'm happy to change my mind. But anybody who thought that the solution and the way forward through COVID was simple, I take issue with that. It could have been simple. Could have been like, oh, we just need to open this economy up. We just need to get everything open. That's a very simple way to frame it. Or it could be very simple, like we just need to stay home. Like everybody needs to stay home. That's it. We just need to stay home and follow the science. And those are both very simplistic takes. And I heard many, many variations of both of those. And I think there are good points on both sides. You can see that I erred toward being, more cautious, because I thought that's kind of where it made the most sense. But I also think it's important to admit that I made a major mistake, early on, like January or February or something. One of the first messages I ever sent to my team about this thing was, it was like a total Dr. Drew moment where I was just like, guys, we have nothing to fear here. Everybody's panicking. We're still training. Right. Mm. And I was very happy to retract that, via podcast, several weeks later, because it was fucking wrong. Mm-hmm. Whatever you think about COVID, I said that it wasn't a real thing. Too early. I opened my mouth too soon, and it was totally obviously incorrect, and it was embarrassing, and I had to walk that back. But after that moment, my stance on it was like, look, I'm not going to try to predict the future. I'm just going to look at the evidence we have week by week, month by month, because new information was just constantly emerging, February, March, April, May. And anybody who acted like it was simple and that they knew, what was going on past that point, after I made that first mistake, I just couldn't hear it. I was just, people, I'd get a text message. Hey, coach, are we going to open up next week? Hey, coach, are we going to be closed? And I go, look, it's Monday. I'll let you know more on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. That was the way to do it. And, what was the question?
I think it was just kind of like what your thoughts were, which is basically what you've kind of given us right now. But it's just,
there's a lot I'd like to say about it. But there's also just so much to say about it.
Well, I think again, you at least, because some of how I behaved during the pandemic, I kind of watched you and not just you, but other people. Sure. You were one of the people that I kind of watched to see how I should be doing things, and I'm not training, but that's because I have someone that I have to be close to who's elderly. So that's kind of where I'm staying. Right. But if there wasn't, maybe my approach would be different. But again, part of what happened is you influenced how I was thinking. But I'm sorry, go ahead then.
Well, back to the point of like, people have these simplistic views on it, and we just need to open up the economy. Well, you can't just open up the economy. It's far too complicated for that, because for a small business owner like yourself, if you were to just say, fuck it, I'm not following the rules, I'm going to open up the doors and, we're just going to do everything the same as normal, we're not going to change anything. Well, that opens you up to a whole mess of liability, because, what happens if your gym becomes ground zero for an outbreak? You know what I mean? Sure. It's a big liability for you. It's not as simple as I'm just going to open up because I need my business to be open.
Well, it could have potentially gone that way for us, because we were not under the same restrictions that Chicago was under. Mm-hmm. Chicago, I mean, they really were coming by your door, telling you they were going to fine you $10,000 per person per violation. I don't think we ever experienced that type of stringency. And if we did, it was only for a very short period of time. But fairly soon after the hard lockdown, we could have opened up like to 20 or 30 people per class. There were schools that did that. And I don't even really judge them for it, because I just think reliable not reliable. I just think the information space was so clouded, with just sort of like partisan bullshit and propaganda, Yeah. And I think it was
almost impossible to make an informed decision.
And I have a lot more time than like your sort of average person with an 8-hour a day job to like try to read about this stuff on the internet. Mm. So I spent hours a day trying to get a handle on it and try to figure out what the right thing to do was, balancing public health with economics and like running a business. Like, to me, like that's where the tension always was. Like there's a tension between these two things. It was I don't know. I kind of got sidetracked there. It was a tricky balance,
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, you had the ability to lean on your wife, who's a statistician. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, she's a statistician at Case Western. Yeah, absolutely.
So you could kind of lean on her for a little kind of opinion and knowledge, and kind of to inform your decision making. So I mean, that's something that you kind of had.
Yeah.
On your side.
And it like she's brilliant with stats and numbers, and I tried to make the decisions that we made based on science. So like we've got a population of students training in our school, and then the ones who are, in your situation, a truly like vulnerable scenario, either they're immunocompromised or they're with somebody who's immunocompromised. Like those people left and they were free to leave. Right. And I never asked anybody to come back. I never tried to shame anybody into training. Like they have a logical scientific reason for stepping away. I get it. Mm-hmm. Like, it makes sense. I did not ask them, to pay any membership dues. I freezed everybody's accounts right away. But I tried to make the decision based on the demographics of our school. So, people who train at our school are roughly between the ages of 20 and 40 years old. Like that's where the cluster falls. And the fact is, like, and this is a fact. I mean, this can be shown through very, very simple statistics. If you're between the ages of 20 and 40, your likelihood of having complications or death from COVID, it's a statistical anomaly, Mm-hmm. And that's without even knowing any other factors about you. That's just your age. Do you smoke? Are you diabetic? Do you have lupus? Are you morbidly obese? Like these are just variables, and just like based on the demographics of our school, it's for the people participating immediately in that activity. There's not a high risk for them. Now, that is not to say anything about them taking the virus elsewhere. Yeah. That's a legitimate issue. But I'm talking about the issue of immediate primary danger, like for the people in the room training. That is a statement totally based on science, but I feel like if you say a thing like that, like without all of these little caveats and like asterisks I've put on it, like that could be a very controversial statement to make. Yeah. And it's a bummer that it is,
And that's why I can understand why you took down those podcasts. Sure. But because people are not going to listen to the whole thing, right? I listen to quite a few of those. And I'm like, okay, John's got his head on straight. Like John knows what he's doing here, or he's trying his best to be as responsible as possible as he's doing this. Because you were doing things like contact tracing and limiting class sizes and alternating days and all kinds of stuff. And so I was watching, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one who was watching. Of course your students were watching, but I'm sure other members of the jiu-jitsu community was also watching. So so whether you know it or not, you probably had an influence that kind of had maybe a little bit of a ripple effect in our community.
Well, the only thing I could say is that I like I said, I tried my best throughout the whole thing to balance public health and the economics of running a business, and then combined with that, we got lucky somehow. Like I don't know how we had so few infections. It's really not like in line with like the science. Like we had three, maybe four infections that we knew for sure were transmitted between Hurricane students over the course of an entire year. And then like of those four, like one of them or two of them was like, well, it's not clear that they got it at the gym. Mm-hmm. But that number is far too small. And I've had old students call me like thinking about coming back, and they go, "Hey, I'm thinking about coming back." I'm like, "Well, great. Like it'd be great to have you back." And they go, their follow-up is, "Why don't you think you had more infections?" And I don't think we'll know the answer to that ever. We might know it in 5 or 10 years. It's just, we don't know what to make of it. We're now up to 30 people per class training. And do I think that we're going to have more infections? It would stand to reason that we're going to have more. We're going to have more people get infected. But I was so wrong early on. Like when we did one of those podcasts, I was talking about it, and I was saying to somebody, I was going, dude, we're going to have like multiple infections every month. Like if we open, and that's just going to be that if we decide to operate like that's going to be the way it is, it seems totally unavoidable. Mm-hmm. I was totally wrong, but I have no idea why I was wrong. It's a total mystery.
Well, there's a couple of things. I have bro science. I'm gonna share some bro science here, because I got a PhD in bro science. Okay, so like my theories are, like, first of all, if you know anything about a jiu-jitsu gym, we are super anal about keeping the mats clean, right? Okay. And I know you did more than just clean the mats. You cleaned your whole freaking studio when during this time when you were having classes, so it's just like we're super, super clean already. But then you add something like this, because we're worried about staph. We're worried about all these kind of skin diseases. That's why we got to keep the mats clean. And some places clean the mats almost after every class. Some places just clean it after once a day, whatever. But the mats are getting cleaned at the very least on the daily, right?
Sure. Okay.
So I think that's one piece of it. The other piece of it is like you got people who are coming in who, like you said, are within the ages that they're least likely to get sick from COVID, right? So their immune is up. They're less likely. They're less vulnerable. Also, I think you got people who are working out, They're just staying healthy. They're staying healthy to begin with. And plus, the last factor I think is that you got these people together again around other people in their community, which is also a positive boost on just their own actual physical health, because they're being they're being stimulated mentally, right? So I mean, to me, I think those are the factors, right? And the fact that, like you said, 20 to 40, I think all these things kind of came together and is why you haven't had so many infections.
Yeah, I think like I said, I've got theories, but like I just want to be very clear to anybody listening. Like these are guesses.
Yes.
I'm not like an infectious disease specialist. I have no authority to speak on why. We didn't have any outbreaks over the course of operating fairly regularly for over a year. I think it's possible that we may have had many infections that were
undetected,
asymptomatic. The problem with that theory is that I have had maybe 20 antibodies tests over the course of this time, and I've not shown antibodies. And if anybody was going to, it would be me. We've had other instructors have antibodies tests. They're not popping for the antibodies.
Are you serious?
Yeah. No, I ordered a bulk kit of antibodies tests because like it's, it was costly, but also like a pretty valuable thing for a guy like me to have, considering like the nature of my business. So yeah, I've been taking an antibodies test once every several weeks I just ran out. I mean, I had like 20 tests. It was like, 20 weeks, something like that. Yeah, no COVID antibodies.
That is amazing.
Yeah. It's weird. But still, I think like even just being young and healthy will like your immune system could actually stop the virus at the door. So you might not even show signs of antibodies. Now, again, what I just said could be bullshit. That might be wrong. Okay. I can't speak with authority on that.
No. It's fact now, man. You put it on the podcast. It's fact.
Yeah. There's no erasing it from the internet.
We've also theorized that like we have a student population who like they largely work from home, spend time with their family at home, and then Hurricane is sort of part of their habit trail. So like we actually have
Hurricane is the bubble.
Yeah. So like the other theory is that we actually do have a student body that is being like ultra responsible about this thing, or at least most of the students are being ultra responsible in terms of like limiting their circles. So that's a theory. We had one of our instructors bring in a CO2, I think it's a CO2 detector. It basically measures the output of exhale or like breath in a room, like the ambient level. And when he measured it, because our facility is so big, it's at 5,200 square feet. And then we have two HVAC systems that are constantly fanning and running and circulating the air. And we have an air purifier. The level of CO2 in the room was nearly identical to what it would be outdoors.
That's amazing.
He told me this. Okay, he has a buddy who is like an infectious disease expert that gave it to him and said, do a CO2. I think it's CO2. Do a CO2 test in the room, see what the sort of ambient breath level is in the room, and it's almost like training outdoors. So that was another.
That's amazing.
Sort of theory, right? But like I said, like I chalk it up almost like in a karmic way. I just chalk it up to luck because. I don't know why. I feel like intuitively we should have had a lot more trouble with this. We didn't. I don't know why.
That's amazing. No, well, I think you just illustrated why. I mean, that CO2 thing is probably one of the biggest factors. That's amazing.
Maybe I tend to just throw my hands up in the air and say that I don't know. I'm just grateful that we were able to operate fairly normally and that nobody got sick. Nobody got seriously sick. A couple people got the, sort of cough and sniffles and a fever and shook it off. It's been a wild time, man. It's been weird. It's been hard.
So how long have you been in business now in Cleveland?
So we opened September 2014.
Okay, so I have a silly question here.
Go ahead.
And the only reason I bring this up is because I know this happens. I know this happens because I know it happened to Daniel. I know it's probably happened to Pedro.
Uh-huh.
So I have to ask, have you had the guy come in who wants to challenge you?
Sure. Yeah.
You see, this is a fucking thing, man. This happens. This seems to happen.
It's just like a kung fu movie.
It's like these people, they think they fucking can come in and take on the fucking master, and they just, and then they learn a lesson. But so can you share with us one of those stories? Like, first of all, how many times has it happened to you?
It's never been really bad. And you probably heard the story that I if I told it, I think I told it on one of the previous podcasts. I taught an intro class, and this guy came in. He was actually a nice guy. He wasn't like being like an outright dick or anything. Mm-hmm. But after intro class wrapped up, I always try to make it a point to like answer the students' questions, and I'll just say, like, does anybody have any last questions? Anything I can tell you about the school, anything goes. And so the guy raises his hand. He's like, he goes, are you sparring tonight? And I was kind of like a little surprised, but I go, yeah. I go, after this, we have an open mat and I'm scheduled to train. And he goes, will you spar with me? And I said, yeah, sure. I'll spar with you. Which up until that point, that's still a fairly normal interaction. But then we sort of started sparring, and we were standing up, and he started kind of like talking shit, while we were standing up. He was kind of like, I'm gonna get you, son. He's like, here I come. You're ready. And like, I definitely find that the best thing to do in those situations is like just beat them as gently as possible, because then it's even more confusing,
Why beat them as gently as possible?
Because any alternative to that has downsides, and but that just doesn't, you could lose your temper and like really rough the dude up. You could refuse to spar, have a verbal altercation and kick him out, or you could spar like they're one of your kids, which is what I did. Mm-hmm. So it's really just like a one-armed like wrestling match I'm having with this guy, where I'm just kind of like collar tying him, sort of pushing and pulling him around the mat. Got him on the ground one time, got him in one submission. I can't really say whether or not there would have been more, because he stood up, and again, this goes back to our disbelief thing. Like, he stands up and he's completely out of breath, and he's like, "How the fuck did you do that?" he's like, "How are you doing that? It doesn't make any sense." And I just kind of laugh. I go, this is what I do for a living. You can learn this too. And after that, he was running for the trash can. He was and we got, one of my students like thought it was going to be a lot worse. He got his phone out. So there's actually video of the incident. But like, I'm good at de-escalating things rather than escalating things. So it just turned out to be like one of the most anticlimactic videos you could ever watch, because everybody's geared up for like a big thing. Mm-hmm. I just like slowly brought it down to the point where, like the guy was just sitting on the couch trying not to puke. Like I said, he wasn't a bad guy. He was a nice guy. Like, I just don't really think he understands, like how to behave in that kind of environment. You don't like talk shit to the instructors. It's not really like done. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. I blame movies for that kind of shit, because it's just like, it's like they have no concept of like, okay, this is not how you behave in real world. This is not a movie. You're not fighting for your honor here or your dojo or whatever. This guy is running a business, man. It just happens to be about kicking ass.
Yeah. I hope it, I think that stuff's like pretty avoidable if you don't let your ego flare up in front of your students.
Mm-hmm.
It's de-escalating things is usually very easy to do.
Yeah. I think, a little humor, some kind of like, okay, guy,
well, yeah. I mean, I would imagine if you were to like really hand his ass to him, like the fallout from that could be really ugly because people who have wounded pride don't exactly react to things well,
Yeah, you just don't know. You just don't, like I said, in that type of situation, just the best thing to do is just, kind of bring it down. But there are plenty of videos on YouTube that'll show you incidents where like that is not what the instructor's doing at all. People get beat up pretty bad. I think Daniel's got it pretty good. I'll let him tell it on your podcast one day. I think you remember La Sombra? Remember that?
La Sombra, yes. Oh, that fucking story is
it's somebody needs to like record that and do like an illustration.
I'm gonna try to get him on the podcast.
Wait, yeah, you're a great artist, man. You should do like an animation of that story.
Oh, dude, that's a great idea. That's a great idea.
That'd be hilarious, man.
Yeah. Oh, you know what I should? Okay, so maybe what I'll do
that because I've told my students that story. It is like it's like an all-time favorite. I don't want to
see. Yeah. Now we're stuck. We have to have that story on the podcast.
I feel like I've beaten it so dead, man.
Oh no, I love that story.
Okay, I've told my version of it. I'd like to hear yours.
Yeah. No. We got to have the real story from the horse's mouth.
Exactly.
That's not from the horse's mouth. I wasn't there.
No, that's why I'm saying no. Now we have to leave it as a mystery.
No, okay. I wasn't there either. But I heard this story too, and I love it. And I'm gonna see if I'm gonna reach out to him, see if he wants to come on the podcast.
It'd be great. He'll like embellish it. He'll make it a little better than it was.
Oh yeah. Oh, and then with the accent and everything, it's just so 100%, cool. 100%. But that's why I bring it up, because this is like a phenomena that kind of just follows the jiu-jitsu instructor. It's just like it happens all the fucking time, and it's just funny because I know I was hoping that you would have a story, but it sounds like you don't let it get out of control. You always you very nicely beat people up.
You really do have to like when you're in that room and you got all those savages training there. And I don't mean this in like an aggressive way or like a dominating way at all, but like you have to control your room. Mm-hmm. When you're in there. And if you don't control your room, whether that's like the guys in the room or some crazy asshole coming from outside, like that's a problem. And like one way to lose control of the room would be to lose your self-control on that guy coming in. If you flip out and start screaming at the guy, mm-hmm. You've lost control of your room, and then I don't know. It just seems to always go bad from there.
Yeah, I could see that. And you've always kind of had a really chill kind of attitude about instruction and stuff like that. Even when I knew you way back when, but I just even back then I said to myself, man, John is so smart. He's going to go places, like seriously, man.
The only person in my life who's ever said that about me.
No, dude, I've always it was silly because I'm older than you too. But I remember coming into the gym and being like, hey, John, what do you think about this? And I would ask you your opinion. It wasn't like jiu-jitsu. It was like, I don't know, something like that happened at work or something. I was asking for advice,
That's funny.
Yeah. But,
that's so smart. Yeah. It's funny you phrase it like that. I had a younger student tell me that the other night. He's like, man, you're so smart, about this stuff. And I go, dude, you should see my report card from when I was a kid. I was a fucking idiot. My dad dropped off this box of memories, my report cards a couple months ago. And I graduated 203rd out of 206 in my high school class. I was smarter than 3 people, I don't know.
Yeah, but you grow up and you can hire people to do your accounting and all that other stuff. You know.
I do all that shit too. So.
Oh, dude. Well, we're gonna cap it off now. But hey, man, thank you so much for coming on. Why don't you go ahead and plug your school, man? Tell us where people can find you. Tell us where your Instagram is. Tell us all that.
The one thing I'd really like people to do, we referenced the YouTube channel earlier, just Hurricane Jiu Jitsu on YouTube. Please find us on there. I dedicate more time to my actual school than I do to like posting content on YouTube, but still there's, I would say at least like one good video a month, if not more, up on there. So yeah, Hurricane Jiu Jitsu on YouTube. I'm on Instagram. I post a lot on Instagram. That's at hurricane.jj. My picture and then like the school will pop up. And then if anybody's ever coming through Cleveland, we have a super chill drop-in policy. So if anybody ever wants to come train, there's no formality. You don't have to have a Hurricane uniform. Just sign a waiver and be cool to everybody, and you're in.
I'm dying to go up there too, man. I've been wanting to go up there since you opened.
Before we go, like, what's your like? Are you on the like sort of like the vaccine timeline? Like, you want to get vaccinated before you go back to it, or even after that? Are you gonna be cautious, or what do you think?
I haven't done any jiu-jitsu except for my kids since this whole thing started, and as soon as I get vaccinated, I'm gonna go right back at it.
Okay, all right.
So. Sweet. I don't know when that happens. I think it's going to be a while still. But I also have knee surgery coming. So I'm going to try to get the knee surgery done sooner so that I have time to kind of recover and then get vaccinated and then get right back in. But we'll see how that goes.
Good plan.
But that's my plan. I don't know. What is it here in Chicago, Dan? Is it like July or August that we go get vaccinated?
Who knows?
So, but man, I would love to come up there and visit you, man.
All right.
I'll let you know as soon as, I swear to you, you'll be one of the first places I'll go to.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. But thanks so much, man, for coming on. And I'll make sure to tag you and do all the magic and put it in the description.
Perfect. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks so much, John. Thank you. Man. Not my cousin Dan for coming on.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Cool.
The song you're listening to is titled The Drama by Hallman, and you can find that over at Epidemic Sound. Yeah, man, it was good. It was really, really good talking to John. John Lawrence, man, he is, like I said over and over in the podcast, he is a very smart guy. He's very passionate, and he really cares about what he's doing, and he cares about the people he's in charge of at this school. If you happen to be in the Cleveland area, make sure you go visit John at Hurricane Jiu Jitsu. You can find out everything you need to know about his academy at hurricanejj.com. Again, that's hurricanejj.com. He's also on Instagram as hurricane.jj. And you can find him on YouTube under the name Hurricane Jiu Jitsu. Also, don't forget to go to our website, theflowrollpodcast.com. You can find all our podcasts there, along with a shop, which you can go in, get yourself a coffee mug, get yourself some of the art that I've made. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram as The Flow Roll. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and press all the positive buttons wherever you find your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening, guys. We'll catch you next time. Bye.